problem is here is that they're trying to divide a piece of property after the fact. It's been there and because of where it is, you know. So they're trying to do, I think, the simplest way to do it, but do we want to go down that road? Do we want to start making exceptions then? When the ordinance requires you to have your own driveway on your own piece of property. Well, let's just take a chunk next door because we need to get access, and do we want to do that? That's up to the council.
Councilman Brown.
I guess that's also what I was trying to say. I think we're going down a path to where it's going to open up a lot of different doors to where it's going to create more situations like this, because I do not know of any city residences that share a driveway that we have adopted right now. But
The only ones we have is multifamily units, of course. They would share a driveway, but other than that,
Right.
single-family residences, no.
I just don't want to start getting in conflict after this last year. We have really worked hard on trying to get a lot of these ordinances in place, and now if we're going to start straying away from what we have, I think it's going to lead to some conflict down the road. That's my opinion. That's why I suggested in the last meeting to move the driveway just to the right of that easement area where she does pull in right now, under the carport. Just make it straight drive instead of coming around, just straight in.
Councilman Chambers has a comment.
That was my next, what is our solution to this problem if we don't grant the easement? And I apologize, I wasn't at the meeting where you discussed it the first go-round. That's my question, what is our solution?
Well, the city's going to require her at that point to have her own access to her property, which means she'll have to come up with the money to build her access and move her garage, and she doesn't have the funds to do that.
Right.
And this allows her to have a legal access to her property. Whether the city ordinance says you have to have a driveway to your property on your property, or just have legal access to your property. So, I mean, there are people that buy and sell easements, I'm sure.
Mhm.
If somebody wants access to a piece of land, they want to pay me for an easement to their land, I can give that to them.
I just got one more question. Is it legal for the easement to stay with Kim? If Kim either sells or vacates the property, then the easement goes away?
They can decide, if they want to terminate the easement, they have the right to terminate the easement.
I don't know if that would help with any problems here or not, but
But that would be the opposite between the two parties involved.
it
in
would be there
purchasing
until
property.
Kim either vacated or died, or...
Correct.
But you said it'd be between both parties, not just,
Well, I mean, ultimately, the easement is going, there's a dominant estate and a servient estate, when you talk about easements. Of course, the dominant estate is gonna be Kim's property here, because it's the one that's conveying the easement. So, I mean, she has that right if she wants to terminate the easement at that point. When she does sell the property or not, and it's gonna be her independent right, of course, but we'll have to negotiate in the contract to do that. You know, to me, I would advise the council, I guess, to, at this point, to make either accept the recommendation from the P&Z. Of course, you can refer it back to P&Z, or you can just deny the request at this point. So the easement discussion itself is, I guess, leave it to you guys, make it see how you want to proceed with that. But those are three options, and so I've already referred it once, so I would encourage the council to take a vote on it.
Councilman Martin, you have a comment?
I was just gonna say something about the option, be the easement stay with the original property. Not be an easement at all, just be, stay with it.
Councilman Range, you have a comment?
Yeah, that was my question before Mr. Brady spoke up. I'm sorry, Mr. Compton, our attorney, spoke up that if she needs that to get in, I mean, Ms. Phillips, so we can be proper.
Yes, Ms. Ramsey.
Thank you.
Does she use her carport now other than storage?
Off and on. I'll just say, yeah, I see the car parked out sometimes, and so I can't answer that for sure, but some.
Is there a reason, I think Danny pointed out, is there a reason that what we've cut out, what's been cut out for an easement for that to stay with Kim. I just have a hard time.
That was the way I tried to present in,
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Why?
At this point, and please don't take this wrong, but if I go back and say, Kim, we need to resurvey, she's been out the expense of a survey on her own, and then go resurvey, she's gonna want some assurance before putting out any more money that it's gonna be accepted, and I know until everybody votes, it's not a done deal, I'm aware of that. But for me to go tell her we need the surveyor to go back out, resurvey this out, draw new meets and bounds, she's gonna want some kind of assurance that there's some commitment somewhere, and I know there's nothing anyone can give.
Councilman Bryant?
Mary, you said that this was the original way you had it with that piece that was cut out? I guess we as a
When I-
council, I never saw that.
When I originally brought it to, that was my desire, was to cut out that, I don't have the dimensions with me, the plat that I had drawn up, was trying to cut out around that. And I don't know where it came from, but some thought it was not attractive, that it wouldn't look right, that it was just probably not the best thing to do, and to leave the property line intact and go around that.
Well, my personal opinion is that would be a lot better, even if it wasn't just a straight line, straight cut through, divided piece of property, is to have that separated onto Kim's property and sell the rest, that way they can have their own driveway, to the right, or to the left.
So y'all would be more amenable, and maybe I'm not asking this right, if it's wrong, correct me, but if we did not have the full 60 across the front, because what we were looking at was whatever it was gonna be, 48 feet or whatever this way, and then back, and so we wouldn't have met the requirement of 60 feet across the front. We were gonna be short. So it was suggested to me to leave it at 60 across, so we met the requirement.
Right.
So that's why it's like that.
Couldn't the easement be just for this owner, that when she sells it, then the easement could go away?
Yes, it can.
Couldn't that, and then the council wouldn't have such heartburn about some precedent?
I think everybody's in.
Because I mean, we gotta look at property owner rights too here, not be heavy-handed at the city. I mean, couldn't we just go with that one owner? When she sells it, then the easement goes away? I mean, I don't know, that's just a
I would defer to the
suggestion.
attorney for that, but.
They have to be assigned to a person.
I don't,
Well,
I don't think we can obligate somebody to keep an easement or sell an easement at this point. You did right, you can't do that. Like I said, I think at this point, it meets, we're comfortable with the easement ordinances in place as far as setbacks, parking, and all that stuff. And then at this point, I think the council will just consider vote and accept it or deny it, or refer back to P and Z. And of course, if you're gonna refer back to P and Z, I would recommend to make some better suggestions to P and Z, so that it can get conveyed back to P and Z, so they're not wrong in the future. Yes, Councilman Brown.
If we were looking at more like the property in yellow, be kept with the property on the right, that puts it as to what, 48 feet?
Right.
So is that up to code for the ordinance?
It has
48 feet in
to
front?
be 60 feet
It has to be
across.
six, so P and Z.
They would have to go to the Board of Adjustments.
Board of Adjustments to.
To get a grant.
Doing it this way, in fact, was proposed this way to, in fact, meet that part of the ordinance. Not able to do both at the same time, and so keeping the lot full width was deemed to be the more important of the two issues, because the easement can't be done away with.
My concern is not with the property or the concern of the division of it. I don't care about that. My concern lies with what's in our policy now. And that's where I thought every property owner has to have their own driveway. That's my concern. That's what I don't want to stray away from. We start straying away from that, and we've got problems. And it's going to lead to somebody else with something along the lines, similar lines, it's going to make the same recommendation. Well, why can't we do it? They wanted to do it. But they did it. So I don't agree with an easement at all. I like the fact that if we have to go back to P and Z for 48-foot approval, or if it's just sold and Ms. West makes a driveway on her own property. One of those two, but I'm not for an easement in the city limits right now.
You wouldn't wanna go 48 there, would you? Because then you're setting another precedent. On your
Councilman-
lots. Oh, I'm sorry.
And everybody got their hand up. Councilman Martin.
Ray, I thought the requirement was 6,600 square foot for a lot. I didn't know it had to be 60 foot wide.
It is, there's a minimum 60 foot wide and 110 in depth, taking it to 66.
Did you have a comment, Councilman Ramsey?
For R1.
Okay. In order for to meet the 60 feet, .06, whatever, or yards, whatever you wanna call it, it has to include the easement, correct? But yet the new property owners cannot put anything on the easement. Okay? Now, in my little ordinance book of papers that I have, it says every property, R1, is required to have their own driveway. So they would not be using Miss West's driveway. The only purpose we're giving that easement for is to meet the 60 feet. Is that correct?
The only reason requesting that easement is to give Kim, she doesn't have enough room to swing in and back out. The new property owner's driveway is set in here. Hers sits too close to her house and she doesn't have enough room to swing in, so the easement would only be being used by Kim in this instance to have room to swing in and back out.
I guess what I'm trying to get to the point is, if we have an ordinance that says each homeowner has to have in the city their own driveway, they cannot use her driveway as a driveway. They have to have their own separate driveway.
And there's one right here for that lot.
But nobody's saying that. I mean, we've said that point, but nobody's coming up and saying that the owner has to have their own driveway. So the only purpose for providing the easement, my understanding is to give Mrs. West enough area to swing into her driveway. And a fence cannot be put up to cover her carport.
That's why it's an easement.
Okay, but on the easement line, okay, if the easement line, and I'm sorry, I wanna make sure I understand it before I make my final decision. The easement line on the new properties, the new person's property, they can build a fence on their side of the easement line. Can they bring that fence past her carport? That would be their own property and it would not be the easement line.
It's not the easement.
I'll explain.
Please, yeah, 'cause I'm not sure about it.
This is lot 1R, this is lot 2R.
Right.
2R can build their fence line right along here and right along there. They could not build it to the corner because it would block the access to the easement.
Right, not the driveway.
Correct. But they could build a fence line here and then one on the back side. So they're basically, if they wanted a fence.
That's where I was getting confused when I asked about the fence. If they put it on their property, they can build a fence that blocks that house from theirs, as long as it's on their property and it doesn't go, what is that, 34 feet back? It has to stop. Is that what?
The yellow shaded area is depicting the 34 feet in length and 12 feet wide.
But they could bring the fence down on their side to where it becomes a city easement, correct?
They can't go into there's a setback. for
Yeah, there's setback.
But
The
other than
setback.
that, yes, yes.
Okay.
But it's not a city easement. You said city easement.
Utility easement.
Utilities, I'm
The front
sorry.
curve there.
Councilman Martin.
Good question for the attorney. Brady, on the, if we're gonna say that the front of that lot's gotta be 60 foot wide, and does that 12 feet for the easement, that counts as part of the 60 feet?
I don't know, but even the easement, the ordinances that would prohibit counting that. because it's still part of the property, so I would say yes, it's part of the 60 feet. Anyway, I guess the ultimate issue you guys are struggling with is, of course, the precedent you set now versus the option in the future of somebody having to come to the council and to the P&Z requesting variance on the property. So either way, you're taking an action, I guess, that might be in conflict with the current ordinances that are in place. That's, of course, your decision, decide what kind of precedent you will set today.
Okay, any other comment from council at this point? I'm going to go to the audience at this time. Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to come and comment on the replat of property located at 102 Bridget Lane? Anyone like to come to the podium and comment? Okay, coming back to the council, I would be looking for some possible motion on item number 2. Councilman Jones.
I'd like a recommendation that we, motion that we accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of this request, including said easement.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilman Jones to approve the replat of property located at 102 Bridget Lane.
I'll second.
I have a second from Councilman Chambers. All vote.
Mike Jones made that one. Okay, I'm just trying to.
Mike Jones made the motion, Councilman Chambers seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Let the record show that Councilman Bryant and Councilman Martin are opposed. Councilman Ramsey, Councilman Chambers, and Councilman Jones were in favor. It passes 3-2.